Mom left me and went to new family, and I stayed in her past, she said. Years later, she came back to ask for money for her new daughter's education. I calmly said it and expelled. When I was 16, my mother sat me down one night and gave me a speech that shattered my life. I can't live like this anymore, she said. You're old enough to take care of yourself now. You'll be fine, but I have to move on. She told me that I was part of her past. Just like that. She didn't sugarcoat it or try to make it sound better. I was her past, and her future was with the man she'd been secretly seeing, a man with 4 children of his own. She didn't even apologize. Instead, she explained, almost matter-of-factly, that I couldn't stay in our house because she planned to sell it soon. She packed her bags and left within a week. There was no big scene, no dramatic tears, just a quiet, hollow departure. I watched her walk away, carrying a suitcase and my sense of stability with her. It wasn't like I could call my father. He had left us years before, and by then he was a ghost to me. My mother had always been the parent I counted on, the one who said she would never leave. And now she was gone. I stayed with my aunt for a while, but she wasn't able to keep me for long. After that, I bounced around, sometimes staying with friends, sometimes renting tiny, rundown rooms when I could afford it. I got an after-school job at a diner, then finally started working full-time when graduation came and went. College wasn't an option, but I found ways to learn and grow anyway. I took online courses when I could, saved every penny, and worked my way up at the company I joined when I turned 19. Meanwhile, my mother seemed to be thriving in her new life. She never reached out to me, but every once in a while I'd see photos she posted on Facebook. Smiling family portraits with her new husband and his kids. Christmas mornings, beach vacations, birthdays. She looked so happy. And I hated that I knew that because I couldn't stop looking. Years went by and I built a life for myself. By the time I was 24, I was living in another state, renting a small but cozy house, and doing well enough financially to feel stable for the first time in years. Then one day, my aunt called me out of the blue. She wants to talk to you, my aunt said. Who? I asked, even though I already knew. Your mother. Apparently, things had fallen apart for her. Her husband had left her, and his children wanted nothing to do with her now that he was gone. She was living alone, struggling financially, and had somehow tracked me down. A week later she showed up at my door. I almost didn't open it, but curiosity got the better of me. She looked older, thinner, and fragile. She burst into tears as soon as she saw me and apologized for not reaching out sooner. She said she was desperate. She needed help. Specifically, she needed money for my half-sister's tuition. A half-sister I didn't even know existed. I let her talk, but I couldn't hide the anger that had been simmering inside me for years. I reminded her how she had abandoned me, how she had told me I was her past. She didn't deny it. She just kept crying and begging, saying she had nowhere else to turn. For a moment I felt sorry for her. Against my better judgment, I asked her for some time to think and told her I'd call her later. Then I called my aunt to vent. After a long talk, I made my decision. When I called my mother back, I told her no. I couldn't help her, not after everything. I hung up the phone before she could argue. It wasn't just the money. It was about drawing a line in the sand, refusing to be manipulated by her guilt after all she'd done or hadn't done for me. That was the last time I saw her. Part of me wondered if she ever truly regretted what she had done, but I didn't stick around to find out. It was time for me to move on for real this time. After I hung up the phone, I expected to feel relief, like a weight had been lifted from my shoulders. But it didn't happen, not right away. Instead, I spent days replaying it all in my head. Her tears, her pleas, the raw nerve she hit when she said, I had no one else to turn to. It was infuriating because part of me still wanted her approval. That's what decades of being a child will do to you, I guess. Even after all the damage she had done, I still felt guilty. Like I was somehow wrong for rejecting her. But then I thought about the nights I spent crying in any borrowed bed I could find, wondering if I mattered to anyone. The times I scraped together coins for food while she went off to build her perfect family. And the photos, those damn photos she kept posting, as if she hadn't left a whole other life behind. It helped me stay grounded. She texted me a few times after the call. The texts alternated between more pleading and the occasional guilt trip. "You're my daughter. Doesn't that mean something?" she wrote in one. I didn't respond. A few weeks went by, and just when I thought she'd given up, my aunt called again. She said my mother had been to see her, asking for help. Apparently, she still wanted me to reconsider. "You have a big heart," my aunt said. "That's why she thinks she can get through to you." That hit a nerve. I felt manipulated all over again, but it also made me wonder, was I being heartless? Was I letting my anger blind me to someone in real need? Against my better judgment, I decided to meet with her one last time. I told her to come to me, and when she did, I could tell she'd been crying. Her face was puffy, her makeup smudged. She started to speak, but I stopped her. "I need to say this first," I told her. And I let it all out. The years of resentment, the abandonment, the bitterness I felt every time I saw those Facebook posts. I told her how her leaving had forced me to grow up too fast, how it had broken something in me that I'd spent years trying to fix. She just sat there and listened, tears streaming down her face. When I finally stopped, she whispered, "I don't know what to say. I'm sorry." For a moment I almost believed her. But then she added, "I had no choice. You don't understand how hard this was for me." Then I realized she still didn't get it. To her, I would always be the footnote in her story, the one she left behind because she didn't have a choice. "I'm sorry you're struggling," I said, my voice steady. "But I can't help you. Not after everything." She started to cry again, but this time I didn't feel the need to comfort her. I opened the door and motioned for her to leave. That was the last time I saw her face to face. But here's the kicker. A few months later, I got an email from my half-sister. She'd found me online and wanted to get in touch. At first I ignored it, thinking it was just another way for my mother to get in touch with me. But the messages kept coming, and eventually curiosity got the better of me. I replied. Her name was Ellie, and she was 18. She told me she'd grown up hearing about me, but it was always vague. "Mom said you were doing great," she wrote. "But I could tell there was more to the story." We began to chat, cautiously at first. She was surprisingly open about her family life, and it turned out that things weren't as perfect as the photos made them seem. Her stepfather was controlling, and my mother had struggled to keep the peace. Ellie said she'd always felt like she was walking on eggshells, trying not to upset anyone. It didn't justify what my mother had done, but it gave me a new perspective. Maybe she wasn't the villain I'd made her out to be, just a deeply flawed person who made terrible choices. Ellie and I finally met. She reminded me of myself at that age, tough, determined, but carrying a lot of pain she didn't know what to do with. I didn't have the heart to tell her everything about our mother, but I shared enough to let her know she wasn't alone. In a strange way, Ellie became the connection I didn't know I needed. She wasn't a replacement for the mother I lost, but she was family. Real family. And for the first time in years, that felt like enough. Ellie and I began to bond, meeting every few weeks for coffee or a quick lunch. She had this quiet resilience that reminded me of myself when I was younger. But as much as I liked her, there was something she hadn't told me, something I could feel simmering beneath the surface every time we talked. One evening, as we sat on a park bench overlooking the water, she finally broke down. "I have to tell you something," she said. "But you're not going to like it." I braced myself. She hesitated, then looked at me. "Mom lied to you. About me, about a lot of things." I didn't say anything, but my stomach twisted. "She never asked for the money for my tuition," Ellie said. "She used it to pay off some debts she owed, to people who aren't exactly patient about being paid late." I stared at her, stunned. "What do you mean, debts? What kind of people?" Ellie fidgeted with her bracelet. "I don't know all the details, but it's bad. She got into some kind of gambling mess with her old boss, and it got out of hand. The money you gave her? It barely made a dent. And now they're coming after her. A cold realization washed over me. My mother's tears, her desperation. It wasn't about helping Ellie. It had never been about Ellie. It was about saving her own skin. Ellie continued, her voice barely above a whisper. I think she thought if she could guilt you into giving more, she could fix it. But when you said no, it got worse. I should have been angry. Instead, I just felt tired. This was just another chapter in the same story, my mother's endless ability to make everything about her. What does she want me to do? I asked, more to myself than to Ellie. I don't know, Ellie said. But she's scared. And honestly, so am I. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw the fear in her eyes. It wasn't her fault. She hadn't asked to be caught in the crossfire of my mother's decisions, just like I hadn't all those years ago. Does she know you told me that? I asked. Ellie shook her head. She'd kill me if she found out. I sat there in silence, torn between wanting to run away from the chaos and feeling like I owed Ellie something, some kind of protection, even if I couldn't offer it to my mother. Okay, I said finally. If things get worse, call me. No matter what. Ellie nodded, but I could see the doubt in her eyes. I didn't tell her what I was really thinking, that this wasn't over, not by a long shot. And the next time my mother came knocking, I wasn't sure I'd be able to keep the door shut. Things got more complicated over the next few weeks. My mother started calling me again, leaving voicemails filled with apologies followed by pleas for help. I didn't answer, but Ellie kept me informed. She's been getting visits from people, Ellie said over the phone one night. Men in suits, guys who don't look like they're here to talk about payment plans. In spite of myself, I felt a pang of concern. As much as I wanted to stay out of it, something about the whole situation gnawed at me. If these people were dangerous, what would they do to my mother or to Ellie, for that matter? I finally agreed to meet my mother, but this time I insisted it be in a neutral, public place. A coffee shop downtown. When she walked in, she looked worse than the last time I saw her, frazzled, pale, and nervous. She launched into a story about how things had gotten out of control, how she'd made mistakes, how she just needed another chance to make things right. What exactly are you paying for? I asked, cutting her off in the middle of her rant. Her eyes darted around the room. It's complicated. Try me, I said. She hesitated, then said, It's debt I took on to help the family. Ellie's tuition was part of it. The rest, it's hard to explain. I didn't buy it. Ellie already told me the tuition story was a lie, I said flatly. The color drained from her face, but she recovered quickly. Fine. It's not about the tuition. But it is about protecting Ellie and me. These people, they'll come after us if I don't pay them back. How much do you owe? I asked, my voice calm. $50,000, she said after a long pause. I leaned back in my chair and let the number sink in. It wasn't pocket change, but it wasn't insurmountable either. Something about it felt wrong. I decided to do something I hadn't done before, dig deeper. After leaving the coffee shop, I called Ellie and asked her what she knew about these debt collectors. She didn't have much, but it was enough to start an online search. What I found confirmed my suspicions. There was no debt. No threatening collectors. The men who'd visited my mother were associates of her latest boyfriend, a con artist with a history of targeting women for money. They had cooked up the whole scheme together, hoping to scare me into paying up. Ellie had been caught in the middle without even realizing it. The next time my mother called, I answered. You lied to me, I said. What are you talking about? She asked, her voice shaking. I laid out everything I'd discovered, piece by piece. In the end, there was silence on the other end of the line. I don't know what you think you found, she finally said. But I'm telling you, I need help. No, I said firmly. Not this time. Not ever again. You made your choices and now you have to live with them. I hung up the phone and blocked her number. Ellie was angry when she found out. Not with me, but with our mother. She cut ties with her almost immediately, saying she couldn't take the lies anymore. In the end, I didn't feel triumphant or vindicated. Just done. I had spent too many years letting my mother's chaos bleed into my life. It was time to close the door for good. Ellie and I stayed close though. We had each other now, and that was more than enough. A few months after I cut ties with my mother, Ellie called me in the middle of the night. Her voice was shaky, barely a whisper. "I have to leave," she said. "I can't stay here anymore." I could hear it in her tone something had happened. "What's wrong?" I asked, sitting up in bed. She hesitated before saying, "It's Mom. And her boyfriend. He's staying with us. He's not who she said he was." My stomach dropped. I had warned Ellie about our mother's track record, but I never imagined things would escalate like this. "Is he dangerous?" I asked. "Yes," she said. "And Mom is letting it happen. She doesn't care what he's done to me as long as he pays the bills." I clenched my jaw, anger bubbling beneath the surface. "Where are you now?" "At the bus station," she said. I couldn't stay there another second. I don't know where to go." "Come to me," I said at once. "I'll figure it out." But Ellie hesitated. "I can't. I'm not getting you into this again. I already have a place to stay, at least for now. She's a friend, someone I met at school." This was news to me. I didn't know Ellie had anyone close enough to turn to, but she sounded sure. "Are you sure about her?" I asked. "She's the only person I trust right now," Ellie said. "She knows what I've been through. Her name is Madison. She went through something like this with her own family, so she gets it." Hearing the relief in Ellie's voice made me back away. If Madison was someone she trusted, I wasn't going to push. Over the next few weeks, Ellie settled into her new life with Madison. They shared a tiny apartment not far from Ellie's old college. It wasn't much, but it was better than what she'd left behind. She told me that Madison was kind, stable, and fiercely protective, everything our mother wasn't. One day, during a phone call, Ellie dropped the news. "Madison isn't just my friend," she said. "She's more than that." I paused, letting her words sink in. "Are you happy?" I asked. "For the first time in years," she replied. That was all I needed to hear. Ellie blossomed in ways I hadn't seen before. She went back to school, worked part-time, and even started volunteering at a shelter for women in crisis. It was as if she'd found a purpose, a way to channel all the pain she'd been carrying around into something meaningful. As for our mother, I heard through the grapevine that her boyfriend had finally left her and that she was struggling again. But I didn't reach out. Neither did Ellie. We had both built new lives far away from the chaos we grew up with. And though it wasn't easy, it felt good to finally leave the past behind. Ellie and Madison invited me over for Thanksgiving that year. Their small apartment was cramped, and the table wobbled every time someone leaned on it, but the warmth in the room was something I hadn't felt in a long time. We were free for the first time. And that was enough. A few months after that Thanksgiving, Ellie called me with a sense of urgency I hadn't heard in a long time. "Can you come over? There's something I have to tell you," she said. When I arrived at her apartment, Madison met me at the door. She looked nervous, but Ellie seemed too calm. We sat at the table, the same one that wobbled on Thanksgiving, and she slid a letter over to me. It was addressed to her from our mother. "I didn't open it," Ellie said. "I wasn't sure I wanted to. But I thought maybe you should be here if I did." I hesitated. "Are you sure? After everything?" Ellie nodded. She opened the letter carefully, her hands shaking slightly, and began to read aloud. It was rambling, disjointed, filled with half apologies and excuses. Our mother claimed to be sorry for everything, but still managed to justify every bad decision she'd made. At the end, there was a chilling line. "Even if you hate me, I just want you to know you were never supposed to find out about the money." Ellie froze, her eyes snapping up to meet mine. What does she mean? I asked. I don't know, Ellie whispered. The letter didn't elaborate, but it left a lingering question that neither of us could shake. What money? Was it the tuition scam? Or was it something deeper, something we hadn't yet uncovered? It gnawed at us for weeks, but we never got the answers. Our mother disappeared from our lives again, this time for good. Maybe it was guilt, or maybe she just didn't want us digging into her secrets. Ellie and I finally let it go. Some questions didn't need to be answered. We had each other, and that was enough. But sometimes, late at night, I still wonder, what else had she been hiding all this time?